It was a cold night, the kind of night where the air feels too heavy and the silence feels deliberate, as if the world itself is waiting for something to happen. I was lying in bed, staring at my phone, when I noticed how quiet it had become. The house always had its sounds, the hum of the refrigerator, the faint buzz of the heater, the occasional creak of settling wood, but suddenly it all felt muffled, as if someone had pressed a hand over my ears. Then I heard it. At first it was distant, a faint, mechanical groan, but quickly it became clear the garage door was opening. My breath caught in my throat. No one else had a key, no one else had the opener, and there was no reason for it to be moving. I froze, straining to hear, telling myself it had to be a malfunction, a glitch. Maybe the wind had rattled something loose. But deep down, I knew better. I slipped out of bed, my feet hitting the cold floor, and crept to the window. My fingers shook as I pushed the curtain. Beside the garage door was open. Not halfway, not closing, but completely open, yawning into the dark. I stared into it, into that hollow black space, and I swear for a moment it stared back at me. A shadow moved across the concrete floor. The panic that surged through me was electric. I stumbled back from the window, clutching for the baseball bat that leaned against my nightstand. It felt like a child's toy in my hands, far too light against the kind of threat I knew was waiting. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I stood in the dark with the bat raised, listening. And then I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, heavy against the garage floor, moving with certainty, not fear. They weren't rushing. They weren't afraid of me. They belonged there, or at least they thought they did. The footsteps grew louder as the intruders made their way inside. The sound of drawers opening drifted down the hall, followed by low murmurs. More than one voice, at least two. Their tone was casual, almost relaxed, as if this wasn't the first time, as if my home was familiar. I backed against the wall, my whole body trembling, but my phone was still on the bed, just out of reach, glowing faintly with the half-read article I had abandoned if I tried to grab. They'd see me if I stayed hidden. Maybe they would leave. But then the hallway creaked. I turned and saw him. A man, tall, broad-shouldered, face obscured by the shadows. He stood just beyond the frame of my door, and when our eyes locked, there was no surprise in his only recognition. He lunged. I swung the bat with everything I had. The crack echoed like gunfire as it struck his shoulder, sending him staggering. He grunted, snarled, and kept coming. Another man appeared behind him, larger, moving fast. The bat was ripped from my hands before I could strike again. I ran. I don't remember deciding to. My body just moved. My bare feet pounded the floor as I sprinted toward the front door, but a hand caught the back of my shirt and yanked me down. My knees slammed into the wood, pain exploding through my body as I screamed. They pinned me, shadows leaning close, their breath hot and foul against my skin. But they didn't hit me. They didn't stab me. Instead, one of them dropped a bag onto the floor, unzipped it, and spilled its contents at my feet. Photographs, letters, little pieces of my life, pictures of me as a child, birthday cards from my grandmother, school assignments, scraps of memory I hadn't even noticed were missing. They looked at me as I stared, at the pile, confused, horrified. One of them whispered that these were theirs, that I was lucky they were only taking what belonged to them. And then, as suddenly as they had come, they left. I sat there on the floor until the police arrived, shaking so hard I could barely speak. They called it a break-in, said I should be grateful I wasn't hurt. They wrote down details, took statements, and promised they would investigate. But their words didn't matter. Not after what I had seen. Not after what I had heard, because the intruders hadn't taken money or electronics, or anything with real-world value. They had taken memories, pieces of me. Things that meant nothing to anyone except the person who lived in that house. I tried to piece together how they had gotten inside. There was no broken glass, no forced locks, nothing out of place except the garage door opener that I kept in my car. It was gone. Stolen long before that night, they had waited until they knew I was alone. And the worst part wasn't what they took, but what they left behind. The certainty that they knew me, that they had been watching long before they stepped inside, that the open garage door wasn't an accident, but an invitation, a ritual they had practiced. Now every sound in the night is a warning. Every creak of the floorboards makes my chest tighten. I sleep with the bat beside me, though I know it won't help, because sometimes, even now, I hear the whir of the garage door opening. Slow, mechanical, patient. And when I hear it, I know it isn't the wind, it's them. And one day they won't just leave with pieces of my life. One day they'll leave with me. The night was quiet, the kind of quiet that presses down on your chest until you feel smothered. I had been sitting on the couch, a half-empty glass of water on the table, the glow of the television flickering across the walls, when my phone rang, an unfamiliar number, local, sharp against the silence, and something in me knew before I answered that it wasn't good. A woman's voice, calm, professional. She said she was a nurse. Said my mother had fallen, hit her head, was asking. For me, I felt my stomach twist as her words bled through the speaker. She knew my mother's name, her age, her recent surgery, details no stranger could possibly know. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone, but I didn't question her. I didn't think. I just moved keys in my hand, door slamming behind me. I didn't even lock it. I was already speeding down the street, heart pounding. Every red light a curse, every minute an eternity. I whispered prayers to a God I hadn't spoken to in years. Just let her be alive. Just let me see her again. The hospital smelled of bleach and fear. I rushed to the desk, breathless, told them my mother's name. The nurse frowned, typed, shook her head. No record. No admission. No fall. I insisted, pleaded, said I had just been called. She only looked at me with pity, told me to call my mother myself, to hear her voice. I stepped outside. The phone pressed, hard against my ear, and when she answered, groggy and confused, saying she had been asleep, asking why I was calling so late, the world tilted sideways. The truth carved itself into me like a blade. I had been lured, tricked, pulled from my home. I drove back faster than I thought possible, praying I was wrong, praying the house would be just as I left it. But when I opened the door, the air hit, me first, thick, stale, disturbed. The living room was torn apart, drawers emptied, frames shattered, but not stolen. No, the photos were gone. The faces cut neatly from my life. My laptop, my jewelry. Yes, those too. But it was the personal things that left me shaking. My prescriptions vanished, my childhood pictures stolen, pieces of me, pieces of her. I stood in the wreckage, phone still clutched in my hand, and felt smaller than I ever had. The police came. They walked through the house, nodding, writing, asking questions. But I could see it in their eyes. They didn't understand. They thought it was just a robbery, but it wasn't. It was deliberate, intimate. It was someone who knew me, who knew her, who wanted more than money. And when I told them about the phone call, about the nurse, about the details only family could know, they exchanged looks but offered no answers. Said I should be careful. Said I should lock my doors. Said they would file a report. But their words were weightless, empty, meaningless, against the truth. That night I sat awake until morning, the lights all on, waiting for the sound of footsteps, for the phone to ring again, for something to reveal itself. But nothing came, only silence, only the crushing weight of absence. In the days that followed, I tried to explain it to myself. Maybe someone my mother trusted had let something slip. Maybe her friends had spoken too much. Maybe someone close had betrayed us without realizing it. But every time I thought of those missing photos, those smiling faces ripped from their frames, I felt watched, studied, owned, because thieves don't take your memories, they don't take your medicine. They don't trick you with the voice of a nurse who knows the shape of your life. They take what they can sell. They take what weighs in gold. But these people, whoever they were, they took what weighed in fear. Now, even when my phone rings, even when it is my mother calling, I hesitate. My chest tightens, my hands shake because I know what it feels like to answer, to trust, and to be led into the dark. And I cannot shake the thought that one day they will call again. One day the voice will return, calm, professional, convincing, and when I answer, they won't just want me out of the house. They'll want me gone for good. And when that night comes, I don't think I'll come back. It began with pounding at my door, not knocking, not polite, but heavy, violent. Each thud rattling the frame as if someone was trying to break it down. I froze halfway to the kitchen, heart thudding in time with the sound. The porch light flickered, weakly, casting more shadows than illumination. And for a moment I thought about ignoring it, but something pulled me forward. Against my better judgment, I opened the door, keeping the thin screen between me and the night. He was standing there, breathing hard, eyes wide and frantic, clothes wrinkled and stained as if he had been living in them for days. His hair hung wild over his forehead, his fists clenching and unclenching at his sides. He looked at me not like a stranger, but like someone who had found what he was looking for, and when he spoke, his voice was a mix of rage and desperation. "This is my house. You don't belong here. Let me in." I tried to explain, tried to reason, said he must have the wrong place. But then he began describing the house, details that only someone who had lived inside could know. The bathroom door that smashes against the toilet when opened too quickly. The back door that sticks unless you lift it while turning the knob. The stain beneath the carpet in the corner of the bedroom that never quite goes away. Things I had, never mentioned to anyone, things I thought were mine alone. My mouth went dry, I stammered, unable to respond, and then he pulled a folder from under his arm. Shaking as he fumbled through papers, he held them against the glass. A lease agreement with his name dated before I moved in. Pieces of mail addressed to him at this address. Bank statements, official looking, stamped and signed. And if that wasn't enough, he reached for his phone. The screen lit his face in pale blue as he showed me photographs, dozens of them, him sitting on my couch, cooking in my kitchen, smiling in my bedroom, and worse, pictures with other people. Faces I had never seen, all inside my house, celebrating, laughing, living. One photo made my blood run cold, the glow of fireworks through the window. A group gathered around my table, smiling for a selfie. The date claimed it was July 4th of this year. But I had been here, alone, watching the fireworks outside. Yet here he was, in my kitchen, with strangers who had never existed in my world. The more I stared, the less certain I became. Had I imagined that night? Had I lost time? Had I dreamed my own life while he lived it? My knees trembled. I told him I was calling the police, not as a threat, but as the only thing I could think to do. His expression shifted instantly. The fury drained away. He grew calm, too calm. He smiled faintly, said he would wait outside. Then he stepped into the dark, disappearing like smoke. By the time the police arrived, he was gone. They listened to me, nodded, said it was probably a disturbed man, someone unwell, and told me not to worry, as if worry was something I could choose not to do. Days passed. I reached out to my landlord, demanded answers, but he knew nothing of this man, swore no one by that name had ever lived here. The previous tenants were tracked down. They denied knowing him, said they had lived alone, 3 years without sharing the space. Yet the documents had looked real. The photos had felt undeniable, and every night I lay awake staring at the walls, wondering if they were mine at all. 2 weeks later I came home to ruin, the house torn apart, every drawer yanked open, furniture overturned. Not like a thief searching for valuables, but like someone looking for something specific, and yet my laptop, my television, the things worth stealing, they were untouched. The police found no signs of forced entry. The locks were whole, which meant he had a key, a copy. Maybe the original, maybe the house had never really been mine. I told myself he was delusional, obsessed, but the thought would not leave me. What if he wasn't? What if the papers, the photos, the keys were all true? What if this house remembered him more than it remembered me? What if I was the intruder, the trespasser, the mistake? Now every night I hear the faint sound of footsteps in the hall, too soft to be certain, too heavy to be imagination. Sometimes I wake to find the pictures on the wall slightly crooked. The curtains drawn differently than I left them, the lingering scent of smoke though I do not smoke. I tell myself it's paranoia. But when I close my eyes, I see his photographs, his smile, his life unfolding inside walls I thought were mine. And sometimes, just before sleep takes me, I wonder if I will wake up in the morning to find the locks changed, my belongings gone, and him standing where I once stood, telling me to leave, telling me this was never my house, telling me I never belonged here at all.